Hi everyone, so nice of you to come and see me again. So it's week 2. Your short videos, hopefully you've managed to watch them, are all on fractions. Fractions is one of those love or hate topics in maths. So just remember, they're just partial numbers, okay? It's a way of displaying those partial numbers. So what we're going to look at today is converting some of those fractions. We're going to look at adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing them, finding equivalent fractions, and finding fractions of an amount. So let's get started. Please do get involved with the poll questions, and here we go. So we're going to start with equivalent fractions. So equivalent fractions are just where a fraction may look similar but not the same as another fraction. And if you look to see if there's a common multiple for the numerator and denominator, then you can find an equivalent fraction. So you can multiply up, so scale a fraction up, or you can divide it, so you can make a simplified version of the fraction. So remember, when I talk about numerator, I'm talking about the top number of a fraction, and when I'm talking about denominator, I'm talking about that bottom number of a fraction. Do try and get used to those two terms because they might well come up in your exams. So we're going to consider very simply the fraction a half. Okay, now a half is easy for you to think of an equivalent fraction, because we could just multiply it by 2, and we'd multiply the numerator by 2 and the denominator by 2, so we'd end up with having 2 over 4. So 2 quarters essentially is the same as 1/2. Okay, if we think about it like that, we should be able to get our equivalent fraction sorted. But it doesn't have to be a multiple of 2. So the second example you can see here is 3 over 5. If I multiply both of those by 3, then I'd end up with 9 over 15, which obviously is still an equivalent fraction. So let's have a look at a question. So we're going to write 2/3, and we're going to write it as a fraction with 12 as the denominator. Okay, so sometimes you can write any equivalent fraction. Sometimes it's going to give you an indication as to what it wants you to be creating. So we start with the 2/3, and what we want to do is create a fraction with 12 as the denominator, as the bottom number. So what you have to think to yourself is, what do I need to multiply 3 by to make 12? I have to multiply it by 4, right? So 4 times by the numerator, which is 2, is 8. So my equivalent fraction is 8 over 12. Okay, you can see it's written out there for you. So here's your first multiple choice question. Which of the following is equivalent to 3/5? I'm giving you 10 seconds to see if you can work that one out. Hey, I think that should be it. So please share your answers now. Brilliant. Okay, so our equivalent fraction here is 3 over 5. So we want to have, if we scale them both up, multiply them by 2, we end up with 6 over 10. So your answer was A. So well done if you got that one right. Let's have a go at the second question. So you're finding an equivalent fraction to 4 over 9, but this time it specifies it wants the denominator to be 36. So again, I'm going to give you just 10 seconds to figure that out. Okay, and share your answer. Brilliant. Okay, so what we've got to think to ourselves is that 36 is 4 times 9. So if I also do 4 times 4, I get 16. So if you got the answer B, and it looks like most of you did, then that's fantastic. Well done. Okay, let's have a look at adding and subtracting fractions now. So adding and subtraction fractions, we probably want to look for that common denominator method, okay? Or you'll have noticed in videos, I use a SMART and KISS method. Essentially what you're doing is creating a common denominator whenever you carry that out. So if the denominator is the same, so the example here are fractions over 7, if you're adding them, you just need to add the two numerators together. And if you're subtracting them, you just need to subtract the second fraction numerator from the first fraction numerator. Okay, that's only if the denominators are the same, and I apologize, that should have been a 9 rather than an A there. Okay, with the second one, notice that the final answer was 3/9, but the final answer given is 1/3. So that's the simplified version in fractions. Now, you don't always have to give that, but it's good practice to try and do that. Okay, so what happens if we don't have those same common denominators? So we can either do an equivalent fraction conversion, so that we do create fractions with a common denominator, or we can use the method I was using before in the short videos. And if you haven't watched those, please do, because it's a method that really does help when it comes to algebra and fractions, which is a little bit way down the syllabus. So here's an example. We're going to add a quarter and a 2/3 together. So a quarter and 2/3. We'll look at the denominators, and the lowest common multiple for 3 and 4 is 12. So we're going to make equivalent fractions over 12. So we're going to end up with 3/12 added to 8/12. And when we do that sum, nice and simply, we'll end up with 11/12. Okay, nice and simple. This one here, we're subtracting 5/6 from 3/4. Again, we've got to think of a lowest common multiple, if we can, of 6 and 4, which again is 12. And we now have to make the equivalent fractions to each of those sums. So 3/4 becomes 9/12. 5/6 becomes 10/12. Remember, we're taking the 5/6 away from the 3/4. So we're going to end up with 9 take away 10 in our numerator. That gives us a -1. Don't be scared. You can have negative fractions. It's absolutely fine. So we end up with -1/12 as our answer. Apologies, I've put that in twice. Okay, let's have a look at giving you a chance then. So you're going to be subtracting 5/8 from 7/8. I'm just going to give you a moment there. And I'm going to recommend you try and give it in the simplest form. Okay, you can share your answers. Brilliant. Okay, good. So you were not wrong if you answered 2/8. Okay, you're absolutely right. It will become 2/8, but in the simplest form. 2/8 can be simplified to 1/4. It's the equivalent fraction in its simplest form. Okay, here's another one for you. So you're going to add 3/7 and 4/14. Well, I've given this one away here. I think there's an error. In which case, let me just go through this one, because I think I have mistyped again. And that's okay. Gives me a chance to show you the other method I was using. So when I referred to smile and kiss, the smile was multiplying the two denominators. So 7 lots of 14 in this case. So we're going to end up with 98. Okay, then I'm going to multiply across diagonally. So I'm going to do 3 lots of 14 added to 7 lots of 4. And then I get to add those both together. Okay, now I'm looking for the highest common factor. Which, yes, it is 14, that's fine. Just checking. So if I divide both my numbers by 14, I will end up with 98 divided by 14 is 7. 70 divided by 14 is 5. So I was right, just having a quick scan then. The answer should have been D. It's a mistype on my behalf. I'm very sorry. Oh, I've obviously noticed and corrected and forgotten that first one. Doesn't matter. we all make errors. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at multiplying and dividing fractions. So when we're multiplying fractions, this is probably the simplest of all the fraction calculations. We're just going to multiply the numerator by the numerator, the denominator by the denominator, and then look to see if we can simplify anything. So here we've got 2 times by 4 to make 8, and then the denominators are 3 times by 5 to make 15. There is no common factor for 8 and 15, so it's already in its simplest form. We leave it as it is. The second example here, though, we've got 3/4 times by 2/7. So again, numerators multiply to make 6, denominators multiply to make 28. There is a highest common factor of 2 here, so we can simplify our 6 over 8 to become 3 over 14. Again, get in the habit of trying to give those simplest forms. When you're dividing fractions, it's almost as simple as multiplying, but you have one step to do first. And that is that you have to take the second fraction and flip it over. What the proper word for that is called making the reciprocal. So as long as we do that, we can then change the sign from a division into a multiplication. And we must keep this first fraction exactly as it is. So we have this keep, change, flip going on, or some people, because it's the right letters of the KFC, just remember, keep the first fraction, flip the second fraction, change the sign, okay? So let's have a look at an example here. So we've got 3 over 5 divided by 2 over 7. Let's flip that first, let's flip, I was going to say my first example, flip the second fraction over in our first example, sorry. So 2/7 becomes 7 over 2. And then we can just multiply across our numerators and denominators. So you've got 3 lots of 7 to make 21, and 5 lots of 5 lots of 2 to make 10. This is now what we call an improper fraction, so it's top heavy. So we want to simplify that. So we're going to say, how many times does 10 go into 21? It goes in twice. What are we left with? Well, we're left with 1/10 remaining. So 2 and 1/10 is the mixed fraction that remains. Okay, your turn for a multiplying and dividing multiple choice question. So can you work out what 4 over 9 divided by 2 over 3 will be? Again, I'm going to give you 10 seconds only to work that one out. Okay, if you can share your answers. Okay, yeah. So there are a couple of answers on here that technically suit the question. Okay, so the first one, okay, notice I flipped the second fraction over and changed the sign. So the first one that fits is actually A, because this will simplify a little to 6 over 9. But what hopefully a few, and it looks like a few of you did get, is the fact that we've got 2/3 then being the simplified fraction for most simple fraction for this answer. So well done if you got C. Have a go at this next one then. So we've got 5 over 6 multiplied by 3 over 10. Again, so you can give that in the simplest fraction. 10 seconds now. Okay, can you share your answers? Hopefully work that one out. Okay, good. Right, so we've got 5, 6, now multiplied by 3/10. So that gives 15 over 60. And 15 divided by 60, we've got a highest common factor of 15, okay? So 15 divided by 15 is 1. 60 divided by 15 is 4. So if you got A and 1/4, then you did brilliantly. Well done. Okay, next then, we're going to look at converting fractions. So converting fractions to a decimal, we just want to divide the numerator by the denominator, okay? And once we've done that, Then we've got the simplest form to then convert into a percentage. So if we multiply our answer by 100, then we can convert into a percentage. So here we've got 3/4, and we're asking to convert that into a percentage. Well, 3 divided by 4 is 0.75. And then we're going to take that, convert it into a percentage by multiplying by 100, so that gives you 75%. Okay, let's set you off. So can you convert 5/8 into a decimal? Okay, see if you can work that one out. I'm going to give you the usual 10 seconds. Should I go through would it be useful to go through the division? I know we did that first week, but still, okay, let's do it anyway. So we're going to do 8 into 5, which we can't do. So then we're going to do 8 into 50, which we can, sorry, I should put in a dot because obviously it's not 50 as such. Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, I was just checking I not messed up then in my head. So where am I going? I'm going with 6 lots of 8. So 6 lots of 8 is 48. So I've got 6. What I'm left with is 2. So remember there'll be another 0 here. So I'm going to put a 2 technically here now. So I've done those two. 8 into 20 will go twice. I've got 4 left then, so pass it on to another 0. 8 into 4 go 5. So we've got sorry, and I apologize, I should have put the 0 at the beginning. It's in the wrong place. 0.625. And then, of course, we can just take that, and if we were doing percentages, we'd then multiply it by 100, okay? So that's where we've got this answer from. So well done for those of you who came up with the answer B. Careful with your decimal places. It's my fault. Forgot to put it in when I didn't divide the first one. Okay, so what is a 0.45 as a fraction in its simplest form? So we've said about fractions into decimals. We haven't really talked about decimals into fractions. So see if you can do this first, and then we'll go through how you might want to tackle it. Okay, if you want to share your answer, again, I expect there's going to be more than one answer coming up. Okay, no, most people got it right. That's brilliant. Okay, so if you haven't done this before, if we multiply this by 100, then essentially we get 45 over 100 like that. Okay, so 1 or 2 C's popped up. But this isn't answering the question to the simplest form. Okay, so 45 and 100 have got a highest common factor of 5. So if I divide both by 5, I'm going to end up with 45 divided by 5 is 9, and 100 divided by 5 is 20. So for those of you that answered A, you did brilliantly. Fantastic. Well done. Okay, finding fractions of an amount. So here, there's a few ways in which people like to do this. Some people like to do them, multiply the numerator first, then divide by the denominator. Other people like to divide by the denominator and then multiply by the numerator. Honestly, you're carrying out the two sums. So if you've got a preference, it's absolutely fine. This example is going through divide by the denominator first, then multiply by the numerator. Let's have a look at some examples. So saying half, we'll start off nice and easy. Half of 50. Well, if we divide by the denominator first, 50 divided by 2 is 25. Then multiply by the numerator, which was just 1. So 1 times 25 is 25, okay? But you can sort of see how we could follow this route through to finding a fraction of anything. So if we want to find 3/4 of 80, again, following this method, we do the 80 divided by the 4 to get 20, and then we multiply up by the 3, so we get 60. Our next one is 2/5 of 30. So again, 30 divided by 5 is 6, and then multiply up. So 6 times by 2 is 12. So our answer would be 12. All right, let's have a look at some past paper questions then. So these are fraction related questions, a little bit about what we've been covering today, I suppose. So a school's got 1,200 pupils. 575 of these are girls, and 2/5 of the girls like sport, and 3/5 of the boys like sport. Work out the total number of pupils in the school who like sport. Okay, so first of all, we have to work out what proportion of the school are girls in the first place. Okay, so we've got 23 out of 48 equals girls. So I was just checking that that made sense then. That's fine. So now we want to work out what proportion are boys. And of course, we can work out the actual value, but that's fine. Do I need to know the fraction of boys? Not really, no. Anyway, so actually, let's leave that as it. So we're going to do 2/5 of the girls like sports. So we've got 2/5 of 575. 575 divided by 5 is 115. So 115 then times by 2 is 230. I know, yes, I'm using a calculator here, but that's because of speed, because we are otherwise running out of time, I'm afraid. So then we've got 230 girls that like the sport. And then we want to work out what proportion of boys like the sport. So we could either work out the fraction, or we can work out the number of boys, which is 625, and multiply that by the boys that like sports, so 3/5. So again, when we're finding a fraction of a number, it's just a multiplication, by the way. I didn't mention that before. That's what it is. So we're going to divide 625 by 5 to get 125, and then multiply up by 3, and that gives us 375. But of course, we now have to add those two together to find the total number of children or pupils that like sport, and that gives us 605 pupils in total in the school that enjoy their sports. Okay, here we've got a young person's rail card, a third off the normal price. Lisa uses her rail card to buy a ticket, and she gets a third off a normal price of her ticket this way. The normal price of a ticket is £24.90. And we want to work out how much Lisa pays for her ticket. So again, if we divide yeah, we can either work out that she pays 2/3. In fact, let's do it that way. So she's paying 2/3 of her value, which is £24.90. So we can divide it all by 3 and then multiply it up by 2. So 90 divided by 3 is going to be 30 pence. The 24 divided by 3 is going to be 8. So we've got £8, 30 pence. That's 1/3. Times that by 2, and we get £16 and 60 pence. And that's how much Lisa would be paying for her ticket. Next, we're going to work out 1 and 2/3 plus 2 3/4. Give your answer in a fraction as simple as possible form, right? So again, the video covered what to do when you've got mixed fractions. You can add the wholes and then just add the fractions, and then again, if your fraction happens to be an improper fraction, make sure you make it a mixed fraction and add it again. I prefer to do it where we make improper fractions to begin with. Again, it's a preference thing, but that's the way I'm going to just display the answer to this one. So 1 times 3 is 3. Add that to the top. So add 2 is 5. So we've got 5/3. And then 2 times by 4 is 8. 8 added to 3 is 11/4. Okay. Now we want to either make the equivalent fractions or use my previous method, which I'm going to do again, just because we've looked at equivalent fractions quite a lot today. So 3 times by the 4 makes the denominator 12. Now I'm going to go across my multiples. So 4 5s is 20, plus 3 11s is 33. And now I can simplify those two. So 20 at 33 is 53 over 12. Right, now let's think to myself, how many times is 12 going to go into 53? It's going to go in 4 times. Okay, 4 lots of 12 makes 48. I've then got 5 twelfths remaining. Okay, don't forget that remainder at the end. Okay, let's have a look at this one. I think this is our final question. So same thing, this is a division. Okay, so when we've got division, that's fine, I thought for a second I'd done a multiplication. When we've got division, we absolutely must make an improper fraction. So let's do that first. We've got 3 times by 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7, 7 over 2. I'm just going to put in the division for a second. 2 times by 5 is 10 plus 4 is 14 over 5. Now I'm going to convert this. So I'm going to keep the first fraction as it is, change the sign to a multiplication, and then make the reciprocal, flip it upside down, of the second fraction. Now I can carry on the calculation. So 7 times by 5 is 35. 2 times by 14 is 28. Highest common factor here is actually 7. So 35 divided by 7 is 5. And 28 divided by 7 is 4. Notice this is a top-heavy fraction. So although 5/4 is correct, 4 goes into 5 once, leave me 1/4 remaining. Okay, so again, try and give it always in that simplest form. Yeah, that is all we have prepared for, and actually all we have time for. So I hope that was useful. Please do practice fractions frequently, because you can forget to how to carry out those operations. But I hope that you enjoyed the session, and I hope to see you next week, and the videos will be released in a couple of days. So yeah, get ready for those. Lovely to see you. Have a great day. Bye.